The smell of mesa hung in the air like a memory. In the gleaming corporate kitchen, a woman stood alone, her hands still bearing the ghosts of corn husks and chili oil. Outside, powerful men discussed steel and glass, but in here, in the quiet, aftermath, something more important had just happened. A revolution of flavor, a reclamation of heritage, and for Camilla Varela, finally, a seat at the table. Before we dive into the story, comment below where in the world you're watching from. The September sun filtered through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Rhodes and Blackwell architecture, casting long rectangles of light across the polished concrete floors. Camilla Varela stood frozen in the elevator, clutching her leather portfolio to her chest. Second week on the job. First day in the main office. Going up? A voice startled her from behind. She turned to see Julian Rhodes, the Julian Rhodes, holding the door with one hand, a takeout coffee cup in the other. His tailored navy suit made her target blazer feel suddenly childish. "Yes, sorry," she stammered, stepping deeper into the elevator. 15th floor. "Same as me." He smiled briefly, then turned to his phone. Camilla studied her reflection in the mirrored wall, her carefully ironed blouse, the small gold medal of St. Jude hidden beneath her collar. Her abuela's voice echoed in her head. "Mija, remember who you are." But in this building, surrounded by degrees from schools she couldn't pronounce and last names that appeared on buildings, remembering felt dangerous. The office hummed with purpose. Architects bent over drafting tables, account managers speaking rapid fire into wireless headsets. Camilla followed her supervisor through the maze of glass-walled conference rooms. "This is your desk." Marissa gestured to a small workstation near the kitchen. "You'll be supporting the junior associates primarily, but occasionally the partners." "Fares well," Camilla nodded, setting down her bag. The desk felt exposed, like being on stage. "Team meeting in 10, Marissa added. "Bring something to take notes." The conference room buzzed with conversation when Camilla entered. She slipped into a chair near the back, trying to be invisible. Around the massive oak table sat the firm's top talent, people whose designs appeared in magazines, whose ideas transformed skylines. "Good morning, everyone." A tall, impeccably dressed woman strode in. "For those who haven't met our newest member, this is Camilla Varela, joining us from Northwestern," Camilla supplied quickly. "Right," the woman continued. "I'm Kendra Winters, senior associate. Welcome aboard." Kendra's smile didn't reach her eyes. Her gaze flicked briefly over Camilla's outfit before turning back to the room. "Let's begin with project updates. Julian, how's the lakefront development?" Julian straightened in his chair. "We've finalized the environmental impact study. The client loves the sustainable elements." Camilla found herself watching his hands as he spoke. Confident, precise movements that punctuated his words. A designer's hands. The meeting continued, terms and client names washing over her. She wrote everything down, even the parts she didn't understand, hoping eventually it would make sense. When it ended, she had filled 3 pages. Camilla, Marissa called. "Can you organize the materials for the foundation presentation by Thursday? And order lunch for tomorrow's client meeting? Something impressive but not stuffy." "Of course," she nodded, already making mental notes. Later, at her desk, Camilla overheard 2 associates talking near the coffee machine. "Did you see the new girls' portfolio? All residential, nothing innovative." "Well, what do you expect? She's just an assistant." Camilla kept her eyes on her screen, cheeks burning. "This is what you wanted," she reminded herself. "A foot in the door, start somewhere." That night she called her mother from her tiny studio apartment. "¿Cómo fue tu día?" her mother asked. "Fine," Camilla lied. "Everyone's very professional. Your abuela made tamales for your birthday. I'll bring them by tomorrow." "Mama, no." But her mother had already moved on, talking about cousins and neighborhood gossip. Camilla sighed. 27 years old, and still her mother fed her like a child. But that night, lying awake beneath her IKEA comforter, the thought of her grandmother's tamales, the smell of them steaming, the tradition in each careful fold, made her homesick in the most comforting way. The next morning, a large container sat on her kitchen counter, enough tamales to feed a small army. A note in her mother's handwriting, "Share with your new friends." Show them who you are. Camilla almost left them behind. Almost. But something, pride maybe, or just the weight of her grandmother's expectations, made her pack them carefully into a bag. At lunchtime, she set the container on the kitchen counter. I brought something homemade if anyone would like to try. Several heads turned. Marissa approached first. What are these? Tamales, my grandmother's recipe. It was my birthday yesterday. How ethnic, Kendra remarked. Coffee cup paused at her lips. Quite the smell, isn't it? Two junior architects exchanged glances. Are they like burritos? One asked. Not exactly, Camilla began, but Kendra cut. And I think we'll stick with the catering menu for client meetings, Camilla. This isn't exactly professional fare. Someone snickered. Another whispered something about food trucks. Julian entered the kitchen, stopping when he noticed the gathering. His eyes moved from the container to Camilla's reddening face. What's going on? He asked. Cultural exchange, Kendra said with a smirk, though perhaps not appropriate for the office. Julian's expression remained neutral. He glanced at the tamales, then reached for a bottled water from the refrigerator. I have calls all afternoon, he said simply, and left. Camilla stood alone, the container untouched before her. With shaking hands, she closed the lid and returned the tamales to her bag. The rest of the day passed in a blur of humiliation. That night, she didn't call her mother. 2 weeks later, Camilla had settled into a routine of polite efficiency. She spoke when spoken to, completed tasks ahead of schedule, kept her head down. The tamale incident faded, though occasionally she caught Kendra making comments about professionalism with meaningful glances in her direction. On Wednesday, the office erupted with excitement. Marissa rushed to Camilla's desk, face flushed. Emergency. Staff meeting in 5 minutes. The conference room was already packed when Camilla arrived. Partners who rarely appeared on the main floor occupied the head of the table. Mr. Rhodes himself, Julian's father and the firm's founding partner, stood at the center. As you may have heard, he began, our Riverview project has attracted significant attention. The client, Senator Williams, called this morning with unexpected news. The president will be touring the development site next Friday. Murmurs spread through the room. Not only that, Mr. Rhodes continued, but we've been asked to host a private luncheon afterward, here in our office. Kendra practically bounced in her chair. This is incredible exposure. Indeed, Mr. Rhodes nodded. Julian will lead the presentation team, assisted by Kendra and the senior associates. We have 9 days to prepare. Camilla scribbled notes furiously, already anticipating the tasks that would fall to her. Marissa arranged the catering. Nothing flashy, but presidential caliber. Security will be here Monday to sweep the building. The room buzzed with energy as assignments were distributed. When Camilla returned to her desk, her email was already filling with urgent requests. The next week passed in a whirlwind. The office transformed, artwork replaced, furniture rearranged, presentation materials perfected. Camilla worked late every night, coordinating deliveries and schedules. On Thursday evening, she was about to leave when her phone rang. Camilla, it's Marissa, we have a problem. Her stomach dropped. What's wrong? The caterer just cancelled. Some crisis with their main chef. They can't do tomorrow's luncheon. Can we find another company? On 12 hours' notice? For the president? Marissa's voice cracked. Mr. Rhodes is furious. We're having an emergency meeting in 20 minutes. The conference room crackled with tension when Camilla arrived. Mr. Rhodes paced at the head of the table. This is unacceptable, he was saying. We have the President of the United States arriving at noon tomorrow and no lunch. Julian sat silently, tie loosened, fingers drumming on the table. We've called 8 other caterers, Marissa reported. Nothing available. What about restaurants? Kendra suggested. We could order in from somewhere upscale. Secret Service won't allow outside food delivery on such short notice, Mr. Rhodes said. It has to be prepared here or catered through approved channels. The room fell silent. Camilla's heart pounded in her ears. Before she could reconsider, she heard herself speak. I can do it. All heads turned toward her. Excuse me? Mr. Rhodes asked. I can cook, she said louder now. My family and I. We can prepare lunch for tomorrow. Kendra laughed. You mean your little ethnic snacks? This isn't a church potluck, Camilla. With all due respect, Camilla said, surprising herself with her steady voice, my grandmother catered political events in Chicago for 20 years. My mother runs a successful restaurant. I grew up in professional kitchens. Julian studied her, eyebrows raised. Mr. Rhodes frowned. What exactly would you propose? Traditional Mexican cuisine, but elevated. Fresh. Ingredients, everything made from scratch. My family can help. We've done events for 100 people before. We need something appropriate, Kendra interjected. Something safe. My food is both, Camilla replied, a sudden heat in her words. And it will be ready tomorrow at 11:30. The room went quiet. Mr. Rhodes glanced at Julian, who gave an almost imperceptible nod. Do we have alternatives? Mr. Rhodes asked the room. Silence. Very well, Miss Varela. The kitchen is yours. But understand, if this fails, there's more than lunch at stake. Camilla nodded once, then turned and walked out, already dialing her mother's number. By 7 the next morning, the office kitchen had transformed. Camilla's mother, 2 aunts and 3 cousins moved in practiced harmony, chopping, stirring, seasoning, the air filled with the aromas of toasting chilies, simmering stocks and fresh corn masa. Mija, the mole needs more chocolate, her mother called. Camilla adjusted the sauce, tasting carefully. Perfect. She glanced up to see Julian standing in the doorway, watching. His usual confidence seemed muted. Can I help? He asked. Camilla handed him an apron. Chop these onions, fine dice. He took the knife awkwardly. Not like that, she said, moving beside him. Here. She positioned his fingers correctly on the blade. Rock the knife, don't saw. Julian followed her instructions, slowly at first, then with growing confidence. Where did you learn to cook? He asked. Where did you learn? To draw buildings, she countered. A smile ghosted across his face. Fair enough. They worked in companionable silence until her aunt shooed him away. Too many cooks, out, out. As preparations continued, Camilla caught snippets of conversation from passing colleagues. Can you believe they're letting her do this? I hear her. Family runs some food truck. This will be a disaster. She ignored them, focusing on what she knew, the weight of masa in her palms, the precise amount of filling, the perfect steam time. At 11, Kendra appeared in the kitchen doorway, face tight with barely concealed panic. They're arriving early. 45 minutes. Will this be ready? Camilla looked up from where she was arranging delicate chayote blossoms. Yes. Kendra hovered, watching the activity with obvious skepticism. It smells very strong in here. It's supposed to, Camilla's mother said without looking up. Food should announce itself. Kendra opened her mouth, then closed it, retreating without another word. At 11:40, the kitchen fell quiet. Platters of tamales, both traditional and innovative variations, stood ready. Rice infused with saffron and cilantro, slow-cooked barbacoa. Fresh salsas in jewel tones, dark complex mole sauce, handmade tortillas steaming in cloth-covered baskets. Camilla surveyed it all, then nodded to her family. It's time. They wheeled the food into the large conference room, now transformed into a dining area. Staff members stared as the procession passed. At precisely noon, the elevator doors opened. Secret Service agents entered first, followed by Mr. Rhodes, the client, and finally, the president. Camilla stood in the kitchen doorway watching as introductions were made, hands shaken, smiles exchanged. Mr. Rhodes led the group to the buffet table, where Camilla's family stood ready to serve. She held her breath as the president approached. What do we have here? He asked, genuine interest in his voice. Camilla stepped forward. Traditional Mexican cuisine, Mr. President. Tamales made with 3 different fillings, chicken with green, chile pork with red chili, and vegetarian with roasted corn and poblano. The president inhaled deeply. Reminds me of my visits to Mexico City. He accepted a plate and moved along the line, asking questions about each dish. Camilla's mother beamed as she explained the mole's 32 ingredients. Her youngest cousin blushed when the president complimented her handmade tortillas. From across the room, Camilla caught Julian watching, something like wonder on his face. The meal progressed with appreciative murmurs and second helpings. When the president returned for more tamales, the room fell quiet. "These," he said, addressing the table, "remind me of what politics should be. Simple on the outside, complex and satisfying within." He turned to Mr. Rhodes. "Your caterer deserves commendation." Mr. Rhodes cleared his throat. "Actually, sir, this was prepared by one of our staff members and her family. A last-minute solution." "Last minute?" The president raised his eyebrows. "I'd like to meet the chef." All eyes turned to Camila, still in her apron, strands of hair escaping her once neat bun. She stepped forward, heart hammering. "Mr. President, I'm Camila Varela. My family and I prepared today's meal." The president extended his hand. "Ms. Varela, you've created something remarkable here. In my experience, the best solutions often come from unexpected sources." Camila shook his hand, acutely aware of Kendra's stunned expression, of Julian's small, proud smile. "Thank you, sir. It's my grandmother's recipes mostly. She believed food should tell a story." "And what story does this tell?" he asked. Camila thought for a moment. "That humble ingredients, treated with respect and tradition, can become extraordinary." The president nodded thoughtfully. "A lesson many could learn from." He glanced at the architecture models displayed nearby. "In buildings as well as tamales, wouldn't you say?" The room laughed, tension breaking. The president moved on to discuss the development project. But something had shifted. Camila felt it in the way her colleagues now looked at her, with curiosity, reassessment, respect. After the presidential party departed, the office erupted in celebration. Mr. Rhodes personally thanked Camila's family, insisting they take home the expensive wines served at lunch. Colleagues who had never spoken to her now approached with compliments and questions. Amid the chaos, Julian found her in the kitchen, washing dishes alone. "You should be out there," he said. "You're the hero of the day." Camila shrugged. "I'm just doing my job, all of it." "I owe you an apology," he said, leaning against the counter. "When they mocked your food that day, I should have said something." She looked at him directly. "Yes, you should have." He nodded, accepting the rebuke. "I've been wondering," he said after a moment, "if you'd consider a different position here." "What position?" "We're launching a new sustainability initiative, connecting architecture with local culture and resources. After today," so he gestured to the empty platters, "let's just say you've demonstrated exactly the perspective we need." Camila dried her hands slowly. "I'm an assistant, Julian. I don't have an architecture degree. But you understand something. Just as important, heritage, tradition, how to honor both while creating something new." He held her gaze. "Think about it." As he turned to leave, Camila called after him. "Julian, next time someone brings their culture into this office, even in a lunchbox, remember how it felt today." He nodded once, solemnly. "I will." That evening, Camila's phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Texts from colleagues, an email from Mr. Rhodes, a meeting request from the sustainability team. She set it aside and sat with her grandmother on the worn couch in her parents' living room. "Tell me again," her abuela requested, "what the president said about my tamales." Camila smiled, repeating the story for the third time. Her grandmother nodded, satisfied. "You see, mija, they don't have to love the food. You just have to love yourself enough to keep serving it." Camila squeezed her grandmother's hand. "I almost didn't, you know, after they laughed." "But you did," her grandmother said firmly, "when it mattered." 6 months later, Camila stood before a community center in Pilsen, Chicago's historic Mexican-American neighborhood. Behind her rose the center's new addition, her first project as cultural consultant for Rhodes and Blackwell's sustainability team. The building incorporated elements of traditional Mexican architecture, reimagined in modern materials, a dialogue between heritage and innovation. Inside, a teaching kitchen would offer culinary classes alongside architectural workshops for neighborhood youth. Mr. Rhodes stepped forward to cut the ribbon, then handed the scissors to Camila. "This is your vision," he said. "You should do the honors." As camera flashes popped, Camila caught sight of Julian standing to the side, genuine pride on his face. Beside him stood Kendra, who had recently begun asking Camila about Mexican architects for a research project. Later at the reception, Camilla's family served tamales to architects, clients, and community members. Her grandmother held court at the center table, describing to an enraptured audience the specific fold that distinguished her tamales from others. Julian approached plate in hand. "They exceed expectations, as always," Camilla smiled. "You know, in all these months you never did ask for the recipe." "Some things," he said, "are better left to the experts." She laughed. "The secret is patience, and not being afraid of the mess." Julian nodded, looking around at the gathering. Cultures mixing, barriers fading, new connections forming. "Like good design," he agreed, "and good relationships." Camilla watched her worlds collide and merge, the firm's sleek aesthetics softened by her family's warmth, her community's traditions elevated through professional recognition. "This is success," she thought. "Not changing to fit their world, but bringing my world with me." The room hummed with conversation, laughter, and the ancient universal language of shared food. And in that harmony of differences, Camilla found the most important design of all: a life where no part of herself needed to be left at the door. We build our lives like buildings, layer by layer, choice by choice. The materials matter, the foundations matter, but most important is remembering that the truest architecture comes not from erasing our past to create something new, but from honoring what came before as we reach toward the future. Our heritage is never a limitation. It is the ground from which we rise.